Good morning, Sherry here. This is going to be the next step in this legit rose that I'm working on. And I did pick my border fabric. I went with like a black grunge type look. I'm not sure if it'll actually show, but it's kind of like a weird grunge look. But I figured for this, with all the different fabrics, it should look pretty nice. And I don't normally buy backing fabrics to piece, but I hit 2 different stores and it was the only one I was really happy with, so I was like, well, why not? Quilting, there is no rules. I guess it's just the way my brain works. Being left-handed, everything's a little different for me. But that's how I learned how to crochet. I learned how to knit, and I learned how to sew because everybody that taught me was right-handed, so they do things different than I do, even since I was little. But as long as it works and hopefully it helps somebody out, we will go from there. So, all right, we're going to move the camera down, kind of show you what I'm going through. And I will be fast forwarding through some of it because, there's no sense wasting half an hour in something that, is repetitive. So, all right, we're going to drop the camera down. All right, these are my background pieces, and normally this would be 3 different fabrics, but because I'm doing one solid background this time instead of the 10 different colors, we're just gonna make it easy and quick and go from there. Because right now I'm set up on this tiny little table. This is where, if you wanted to do piece by piece, which is how I'm probably going to do these. So this one would be PG. So I go into my second book, which is here my fabric is petal, which in this case it's going to be my pink. And then I take literally this whole pattern and stick it here because the next piece of fabric that's going to go on here is going to be the pink. Now, if you want to do the piece as you go, I would pull the pink out, add it to this, so my background in it would be done. Which in this instance, I'll do that because seriously, there's like 3 pieces of fabric here. Which then you would just, I probably should have left that right where I was at. Yeah, that's why normally I have a bigger spot, but for filming right now, I've got this tiny little spot. Alright, so put the background out of the way. Those are done. Let's go sew our piece of pink. Now for this, yeah, we'll just do it right here. Because this is the pad, I need this piece here. So I fold this back. Line up your seam allowance because you've already cut it. That's a good thing with trimming the seam allowance before you actually sew it on. I've already got one edge I know has to line up. Now, if I don't know if you can see this real well, but I can see where that line's at. If you're not sure when you first start doing these, I was putting lines on the back side just so I could line it up. But if you're looking at it this way, right sides, which this is a solid like most of the Konas are, so you don't really got to worry about right side, wrong side. I mean, I know there is one if you really look at it, but, and because I can see where this line is at, which is right here, and I've got that 1/4 inch past that, because it's got to come down to here, you should be good to go. And a lot of times I'll sit here and play with it to try and use the least amount of fabric I can. But in this instance, there's no good way because of how it is. You're going to take a square either way. But there and again, because I've cut this seam allowance, I know I can line this right up to my edge of my fabric and it's good to go. And because I've got all this space here, I know it's good there too. So then I just sew this seam. Okay, and there we go. I'll set up to go. I do have my iron set up right over here to the right of me, so we can press this and cut it. Okay. And this is where this little thing comes in handy also, because like if you are going to close a book, move the book, quit working on it, you just put this, which is my fold template, just stick it in the book, and then when I come back, I know right where it was at. Learned that one the hard way. Kept forgetting to mark my spot in the book, and then I just did every page because I couldn't figure out where it was that I needed to be. Alright, same thing here. Come to this. Cut your 1/4 inch seam, because that way then I know that seam is cut and I haven't cut anything off I shouldn't. And then obviously you're going to trim around the edge. And these seams are a little big because when I blew the pattern up, it blows your seam allowance up. So I'm way over a 1/4 inch on some of these, which I left them big because of the pattern where everything lines up and the numbers. If I went in and trimmed this down to the 1/4 inch seam allowance, I cut off some of these numbers or some of the lines that lines everything up for the pattern. That was the mistake I made in the first one. And then as I get into it, I'm trying to figure out which color is supposed to go where, because sometimes you're cutting off the information. So if you do blow these patterns up bigger, kind of keep that in mind, that some of them you can trim the seam allowance down to a 1/4 inch like I did on like this one. But then on some of these I left them big so that I just had the numbering and fabric numbers, descriptions and stuff on them. And then this one's all trimmed up, so then we go on to fabric number 3. Okay, hence I mentioned the washi tape. With perforating the paper, I've got my stitches a little too tight, I think, because my paper already let go. So, washi tape to the rescue. Oh, there it is. Alright, put it back together, because you will need it when you piece all your pieces together. But therein you got that. Here's my one piece, my other 2 pieces, and my pattern does not want to stay on my fabric, so I need to change my my stitching up a little bit here. Haven't had that do it before, but I did run a tiny row of stitching, so that probably didn't help matters. Alright, cut. I need to change my blade. Alright. And one more. Yeah. Definitely need to change this blade. Okay, so there we go. Part number 3 done. Fabric 1, 2, 3 done. My fabric's moving around. Now this, I'm probably going to run a little basting stitch because this piece, there and again, the piece is really, really big. So I might run some basting stitches in this corner and then this corner, just to keep everything lined up so when you piece it together, it stays together. Okay, so there we go. Hard to really see, but I ran a little basting here, a little basting here, just to kind of hold it onto that piece of pattern paper. So everything's good to go till all the other pieces are added. Where's my thread? Hard to see black on black. Alright, and that piece is done. 1, 2, 3 pieces sewed on. Done. Add it to my done pile. And it's literally just that quick. So then I gotta go back to my book because I pulled this out. So back to my little piece, and then I just put the fabric back in where I pulled it out of. And I've got a little scrap on here, so I'll cut that off. Alright, and then on to the next color. And that sounds like my little Matilda over here is trying to tear up the bed again. Because this dog, let me see if I can show you quick. This little dog here, she's our newest little rescue. She just loves tearing up the blankets. Because no matter what, she's got to play. And there's my old man Archie and my old man Bobo. Because, don't you know, can't be sewing without the puppies. Because my puppies go everywhere I go. I don't know why, but they just love to follow me around and help. But that's our little girl Matilda. She just loves playing in the blankets. So that's why my poor dog beds always look like they're trash, because she loves to. I need this move this over. My lighting's acting weird again. There we go. So, alright, we got a CF cut. Add that to my fabric pile. And then the next piece is HO. So back in the book it goes under HO. And in the book to the next color. Alright, next piece. Let's see, we have EV is my blue. Okay, this is my okay, I was just working on this one and it occurred to me this RI, which is my second fabric, I would have to sew on to the WT, which is a background. This next one is also a background. So what I wasn't thinking about is I'm not going to have a seam there, which I think I really do want the seams. So I'm going to have to go back and change them. First couple I did. And I think these, even though it's all background, I think I'm going to sew these as pieced, because I'm going to have these seams. And I really think with this quilt, because of where everything lines up and it's so geometric, that I think we're going to piece these as solid pieces. So I'm going to have to come back to these. See, work in progress. I never even occurred to me until I was just looking at this one when I went to put this in the book, and this RI is also a background color, that's going to be a problem, because that's actually where these seams match. I know when it lines up in the quilt, they're going to line up to other seams. That's one thing with legit. Everything lines up. So, I mean, I could get away with just pulling this off and doing this in all in one big piece. But thinking about how this quilt is pieced together, because I've already made one, I know that I'm going to want to piece these. It may be the same fabric. It's going to be the same background fabric. But I'm going to wind up piecing these. So I'm going to have to come back to these two big pieces and actually piece these. Books on these cut pages, they have this little list, and this is a good way to double check your pattern pieces, because like this is the seafoam, which is your Q, and here it says Q, and if you look on this list, I realize it's upside down for you guys, but my A2H is listed right here, and then 2 means it's a second piece of fabric that goes on here. And as you go through them, because I've already used this book, I checked them off. I'll just do a little check mark next to over here. But the 1 is the first piece of fabric on, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3. And if you're unsure, if you get to, you know, as you're piecing it and you go, I don't know if this is the right color, double check this cut guide, which is the biggest thing going for doing these quilts, is this is like a lifesaver, because if you're not sure you got the right color, double check your list, because if your pattern piece is not on that list, it's not the right color. Because I went through this whole book, unless it's like unless you're doing like a tester kit, which that's where they get everybody to work out all the kinks that, okay, something doesn't line up or something's not quite right. But if you've already bought the kit, it's should have been already, you know, gone through testing and all that, to where if your pattern piece is not in this list, you got the wrong color. So double check And like I said, sometimes there are weird pieces like this that you'll have a letter in a weird spot or a number in a weird spot. So make sure that it matches. Because if it doesn't match this, you got to find your right color. I mean, and it's easy to do. That's why I always, even though I've got them in here and I know this is a Q, I always check this A2J is number 2. So then it'll come up here, A2J here, listed under number 2. This one is A2H, number 2, and it is listed. So if you're ever in doubt or you're not sure, it's kind of a stop and pause and double check so that you know you've got the right pattern piece with the right fabric color. Granted, me doing mine scrappy, it's not such a big deal if I screw up a color, but it will probably show in the final quilt. But for those of you doing the quilts kits, everything is custom colored and everything lines up, especially like patterns like Skull Over and some of the other ones that it looks good when you got them all in little pieces, but when you put all the little pieces together, you really notice a difference. And last thing you want to do is be tearing your quilt apart because you've got the wrong color in the wrong place. So always double check, especially if you're new to doing these. Even with my second go around, I always check these numbers to make sure they're matching because it's not hard to mess up a color. I mean, I've got 81 colors here, so, and some of these quilts got over 100, so it's very, very easy. Shades are similar. You go, okay, it's a brown, but yeah, it might not be the right brown, or it might not be the right blue or the right green. But double check. I mean, because last thing you want to do is have to tear your quilt blocks apart because made a mistake and it's obvious. You know, sometimes you can get away with, oh, it's a happy accident, that's cool, that's my customization. But you want to save yourself a headache and not have to tear it apart later. Double check these cut guides. You know, even if you don't do the book method, if you've got it like the file folders or some other way, double check your cut sheets because it's like a no-brainer. It's like you have a list, just double check it, make sure that, you know, the pattern you're piecing matches what's in their cut guide because I haven't found one yet that's incorrect. So, and it's a good double check thing because I'm not into having to tear stuff apart, especially foundation paper piecing, because the more you tear stuff apart, the more you got a chance of tearing your pattern up and it doesn't work. So I just happen to think of that. I don't worry about it so much on when I'm first doing these because I'm literally every piece I'm doing the first piece, except for the one where I sewed the 3 pieces to show you that, you know, you can take each piece and sew all 7 pieces on it. I don't, just because I don't want to be flipping through that book that many times to pull this fabric, this fabric, this fabric. It's so much easier because it works more like chain piecing, because if I have 6 of these pieces with the same color next, I just sew them one after another, after another, after another, and it's done. Move on to the next color, which I kind of like that better. I mean, it doesn't seem to take any longer either way, and I'm not having to sort through 83 fabrics every time I pick up one of these. I pick it up, put it in the book, move on to the next one, and so on and so on. But everybody does it different, so it's just kind of, this is how I do it. You know, hopefully it helps. It might edit how you do yours a little bit. Could change it up a little bit, could change it up a lot. I mean, everybody's different. They like to do things different. That's a good thing about doing quilting, because there's no right or wrong. Everybody, you know, however you do it and you're happy doing it that way, then nothing wrong with it. As long as you enjoy what you're doing, that's the big thing. And these quilts are very fun to do, and they're really cool when they're done. So hopefully that helps. Okay, hi, Sherry again. I have now gone through and put the first piece of fabric on all my pattern pieces. These are the ones that I completed. They're mostly all the background ones. All the pieces are now in the book. So I've got, so the first two alphabetically would be my double A and my AC, and I have no pattern pieces in here. So then I just go on to the next page. Be ready for me to start tomorrow because everything's all here. It's all sorted. They're all where they should be, and I know right now that I got to start here, which that's where I use my little folding paper cardboard, and I'll just stick it in the book. So like say if I stop down here, it would be sticking out, and I know come to this page and do these pattern pieces tomorrow when I, or the next day, or whenever I come get to it next. But that's why I like the books. File folders probably be a similar thing. Just figure out, you know, if it'll work. I've seen the file folders, and I've got a filing cabinet behind me that I could probably do that, but to go back and forth, I'd like this. It's closer, it's handier, and I have two books. So they take up a little bit of room, but I mean, realistically, not that much room. I mean, because this little piece of cardboard ain't that big. It's, what, 5.5 by 6.5. So figure this book's only about 6.5 inches tall. That's why I do it in two books. Because, I mean, realistically, you could probably put enough yarn on it. You could do this all in one book. But to me, it was just, it's too hard to manage. I have small hands. So for me to, you know, be able to pick these up, move them out of the way, put them away, I like that they're smaller. And by having them both close, if the, you know, the pattern piece I grabbed has got to go in that second book, then it's right there that I can grab it. Say like if my third piece is DD, it's in that book. You just go over and you put it in the book and move on. Okay, hello everyone. This is going to be the wrap for this video. Hopefully there's something in it that can help you as far as like tips, tricks, any kind of help that it offers you, hopefully. And feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe. And until we see you again, happy sewing. You have a good day.